Hi, I'm Jason Gorber from ThatShelf.com, and we're here to fling a few words about Spider-Man No Way Home. So, Spidey fans, Spider-Man No Way Home is the third film in the Tom Holland sort of saga, as it were, his sort of trilogy. This is not the first time Spider-Man's been on big screen, and that's kind of what the film's about. I think that this is a very meta film. It's one that sort of draws in storylines from a bunch of studios, a bunch of different productions, and it's almost as interesting, I think, to comic book fans about what about how it fits in with the greater sort of Marvel storytelling universe than it does as a standalone film. But let's talk about who's in it. Obviously, Tom Holland's in it. Zendaya's back. Benedict Cumberbatch is back as Doctor Strange. Jacob Batalon is back as the, token friend, Jon Favreau. And then Marissa Tomei is back as May. And then you have some interesting casting, some of which was known sort of pretty much ahead of time, and others that are sort of much more secret, as it were. Willem Dafoe back as Green Goblin. Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. You have Jamie Foxx showing up as the electric guy, whatever the hell he is, and a few other characters. And then, yeah, so this is where the sort of spoilery stuff comes in. I'm recording this sort of after the opening weekend, and so I don't want to sort of dive in too much to it, but it's kind of hard to avoid. It's on the actual wiki page. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, which means that they're really toying with the whole metaverse thing. Just like they did with the animated film, which I think is spectacular, actually. I think the animated film is the best Spider-Man thing that I've seen. They really nailed it down. There's something so beautiful and so kinetic and so intelligent about that storytelling that it really responded to it. This feels very much a mix of look, it's unapologetically fan service, which is fine. It's kind of weird what it's being fan service towards, because it's being fan service to a bunch of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films that a lot of people didn't necessarily love. But somehow it is trying to reset the way that these stories get told, all these disparate elements, saying that they're all part of one grand narrative scheme, incorporating stuff like the Netflix show. You have these brief appearances by Daredevil, for example. All these things that, again, as the non-comic book person, just all sort of, for me, feel all the same. Which is, I guess, great for the comic book fans out there, that it doesn't matter which, we don't have to worry about which studio, we don't have to parse the granularity of the economics of the thing. We can just simply accept that in this world, different visions of Spider-Man were told, and in this one, we're actually allowing those different visions to actually have conversations with one another. It does allow some fantastic actors to sort of reappear that had previously been offed in other films. Willem Dafoe's an incredible actor and is actually incredibly sympathetic here. The duality, the sort of Jekyll Hyde nonsense that sort of goes on with his character really does befit this kind of confused situation. And again, the central premise, namely that Spider-Man's been outed by Gyllenhaal in the last film, and how it affects those around him. Look, it's super over the top how it's actually told. I would really hate if MIT actually denied you entrance because you're the friend of somebody who is a hero, but whatever, and you haven't actually been charged with anything. I mean, I understand the fact that elements of culture are quick to address particular grievances, but I would certainly hope that if you had the grades there, you'd actually at least get an interview with MIT before they kicked you out. But nonetheless, that is the sort of central notion about why Peter Parker would actually want people to not know who he was, and then he second guesses his thing. There's a level of incompetence of what he's asking for, which, comes from that sort of adolescent notion, but also at some point in time you would think that Doctor Strange would simply just stop for a moment and maybe not destroy the universe while fucking up while trying to help his friend. Look, this is a children's film. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. We're just going to forget it all. But it's that weird balance that it wants us to take certain things seriously by saying, don't take this stuff seriously. And that sort of bounce back and forth is sometimes a bit frustrating, shall we say. So as a film, it's fine. I kind of enjoyed how it worked. I enjoyed the interaction of the characters. Again, I particularly enjoyed people like Doc Ock's reappearance. It's a really interesting a way that these terrific actors, Molina and Defoe, actually engage with it. I've never particularly thought that Jamie Foxx did an effective job in either film. He sort of feels like he's trying too hard to sort of slip into the engagement, but there's something, I think, about Molina and Defoe that their performances are so elevated. It's a theatrical kind of performance. I think that they're used to imagining in a different way, and so they succumb to these sort of vagaries of comic book green screen nonsense in a way that maybe Jamie Foxx is a little too removed from. Who knows? The inclusion of the other Spideys is fun. You get a bunch of banter. It's sort of that meme of Spidey pointing to himself, which we've seen, again, used more and more, but it's sort of the triptych version of that. And yeah, as it plays out, things sort of unfold the way that you expect them to. The action's pretty good. It's bright enough. It's not so dour and uninteresting. But I still think that the character is slightly more interesting than the film allows. And it touched upon it in the last two Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland's really interesting casting. And actually going with that sort of the Spider-Man who's trying to learn stuff, coming to terms with his stuff, works a lot better than the sort of the more heavy handed elements that they're sort of keeping from the other films, particularly his relationship with Tony Stark, who's dead in this series and storylines. So I think that Spider-Man's fine. I think it's really good. I think fans will be super happy about it. I think if you really don't care, it'll be a nice sort of capper to the trilogy. The performances are pretty good. The surprises aren't so surprising. The big spoilery moments aren't so spoilery. You kind of guess where it's actually going to go, so that when the grand revelations happen, it's not like you're completely oblivious to it. But yeah, as it plays out, I think it's a totally fine Spider-Man film that will see a great deal of success, both from those who are big fans and those that are sort of casual fans who will catch it as part of the stream. As I said, I think that this iteration of Spider-Man has been among the most interesting that they've done with any other comic book heroes, and it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. For ThatShelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thanks so much for watching. Please follow us on social media. Please subscribe. Please leave some comments, and we'll see you next video. All the best. Take care.